17 years after that dreadful day. My wife and I met right during that week, ironically, so we never forget, how long it's been because, it had been, she worked at 120 Broadway and we met about 10 days prior. Around September 1st on a blind date. And she worked in 120 Broadway, which is right near where that pit was after those horrific attacks. And obviously, no one can ever forget the date. But although I had only known my wife 10 days, back then she didn't have a cell phone. I couldn't get in touch with her. She only had a home phone. And I remember calling her, and she didn't answer the phone. And I didn't want to be weird. I'd only known her 10 days. I didn't want to keep calling her. But I left her a message because I knew she had worked right near where the Twin Towers were and had fallen. And it had turned out that she was in Las Vegas visiting her mom, was having a tough time getting home, and that's why she wasn't answering her phone. But I was a Secret Service agent then. I covered yesterday during the end of yesterday's show. The Secret Service employee we lost honored the memory of Craig Miller, Master Special Officer Craig Miller, who was an Army paramedic who worked for the Secret Service when he had left the military. No one knows how he died. The last sighting of him, he was rendering medical aid, which fits with his heroic personality in the plaza when those buildings fell. But it's a dreadful day with really horrible memories for anyone who lived through it. I'm certainly not. This isn't breaking news for anybody who was there. It just, one of the feelings that really comes to mind for me immediately was just the feeling of complete chaos. We live in the United States, the greatest country in the history of mankind. We're used to law and order. Even in chaos, you always expect order to be restored soon. For some of you who've been through hurricanes, through storms, through even some civil unrest, you always expect that eventually things are going to get better. 9/11, for those of you who lived through it, and me being I was in the Long Island office of the Secret Service that day, and we had driven into John F. Kennedy Airport, into our Secret Service command post there, our office, to monitor what was going on and try to get all the agents back. I just remember this feeling that there was a strong possibility that things would never return to normal again, and that this chaos may have been the new normal. Thankfully, although we never returned to complete normalcy again, we are Americans. We did fight back, but I'll never forget that dreadful feeling that things had changed permanently. Thankfully, knock on wood, I've never had that feeling again. I also specifically remember those feelings of national unity afterwards, where nobody really asked you if you were a Trump supporter or a Hillary supporter or an Obama supporter or a Bush supporter or a John Kerry supporter or anything like that. You were just an American back then. And granted, I don't mean to sound Pollyannaish. I understand there are sincere political differences in the country. But it would be nice to get back to a time where we could respect those political differences without, calling our fellow Americans, traitors and Nazis and other horrible things as well.